Hi, my name is Jeff Pagano, and welcome to Harping on Rugby. This is a feature I call the 80 Plus column. It's kind of like a video newsletter where I quickly harp on things that are going on in Leinster, Ireland, and the wider rugby world. Now, of course, this is the off season. There's no Leinster and Ireland rugby matches to review from the last weekend, which is what we normally do at Harping on Rugby through a podcast and social media. But this is something we do every week. We did it in written form up until the last few weeks. This is the third time we've done it as a video, just to try it out, and I'm going to keep doing it throughout the off season. Pretty much my only content putting out over the next few weeks, just to get used to it, so we're ready for the new season when it comes along. Now, before we talk about anything to do with rugby, of course, we have to offer congratulations to all the amazing Irish athletes at the Olympics, and I mean all of them anyway. They're all competing, they're all doing great, they're all doing us proud, but of course, especially to those that are winning the medals: Daniel Whiffen, Vincent McCarthy, Paul O'Donovan, Rhys McClenaghan, Mona McSharry, Darragh Lynch, Philip Doyle, and most recently, when we're recording this, of course, Kelly Harrington. Amazing displays in all the sports. They're all sports I don't usually watch, and I'm not going to pretend I know anything about them from the technical side of things. You just, when you know there's an Irish person going for a medal, you watch and you cheer, and that's basically what's going on. We do a thing in our Harpin WhatsApp group. The lads are having a bit of crack after the recent rivalry with South Africa in rugby, with the two-match series and all that went on in the media before, during, and after that kind of mini series. We're kind of taking the piss at the moment that we have more medals than them. So it's been a laugh on that regard. But listen, most of all, it's great for Irish life, Irish sport, Irish everything that the team's doing so well and getting so many medals. So congrats to all of them. And hopefully there's more before the Olympics is over. Okay, so let's get on with the rugby. And we start with front five, which is a selection of five eye-catching, egg-chasing quotes and links from around the rugby sphere. Basically, I picked 5 articles and about stuff that's going on, or different publications, and certain. It's not always about the rugby; it's about the actual presentation of the article and stuff. But let's crack on with that. And of course, as you see, there's a whole range of topics here we're going to be going through for this 80 plus column. Anyway. Our first front five article is from irishrugby.ie, and the headline is Ireland A to face England A in February 2025. It's pretty much self-explanatory. The quote I've chosen is: the fixture will take place on Sunday, February 23rd, kickoff 1 p.m., and it's going to be at Ashton Gate in Bristol. Now, this is, for the most part, it's a really good thing. We all talk about development of the Irish squad, giving players game time. There's already going to be an emerging Ireland type series going on in South Africa in around October, November, I think it is. And this is more time again. And this is actually during the Six Nations towards the end of February, where Irish players, team players trying to break into the test team are going to get a chance to put on the green jersey and play what's obviously going to be a strong England side as well. And that's going to be a really, really good game for them to show. And it's going to be right smack in the middle of the Six Nations. So we'll have already played a couple of matches. We'll know how we're set in the championship, trying to go for that 3 in a row. And there might be some injuries. There might be some players out of form. So it'd be a good chance for someone to break into the side for the rest of the tournament. So that's a lot of positives there. The only little negative might be from the point of view of the provinces, who do have a couple of games in the URC. And, we know how we saw how last season, how important it is to get as many points as you can to finish as high as you can in the URC table to get that high playoff seeding and home advantage and all that stuff. So this is going to take even more players from the provinces. So it is a negative on their point of view, but obviously, most of all, the Irish test team is most important. And so it will be good for that. So that's something to look forward to. Okay, that's article number 1. Next, our next one comes from South Africa Rugby Mag. We've got the Rugby Championship kicking off this weekend. We'll talk more about that later. But this is some new laws they're bringing in. Well, some are old laws that we've seen before. And this is, of course, that famous, that old chestnut again, the 20-minute red card, which the Southern Hemisphere nations are obviously obsessed with. You hear whenever you watch a game down there, there's any kind of a contact, head contact or anything in the first 5, especially 5-10 minutes, they all kind of click into this narrative and this mindset. Oh, it's not a red card. It's not a red card. It shouldn't be a red card because they believe this thing that it ruins games. Um, I would argue, and many would argue, that concussions and long-term effects of concussions that you don't see there on the day that have been proven, they ruin games more. So the idea is that no matter what stage of a match, if you do a bad tackle, if you go too high in a tackle and you have a head contact or any kind of dangerous play, crocodile rolls, anything, we're trying to take them out of the game. We're trying to persuade you not to do it. And if you do it in the first minute and it ends up your team is shorthanded for the rest of the game, well, that should be on you, and it should show people not to do it the next time. But this whole idea of, well, you can bring another player on after 20 minutes, it kind of almost defeats the purpose. And this whole thing of ruining games, it doesn't ruin a game. For me, it's the long-term injury effects, health effects of players that could ruin the game. Because if young people won't want to play the game, basically, if they know that there's this risk of these kind of injuries. But anyway, we've been through that argument again and again. But the Southern Hemisphere disagrees. They are determined to push ahead with this 20-minute red card, and they're doing it again for this rugby championship. So that's there. And I think I saw somewhere that they're going to have 2 different types of red cards. So not every red card means you come back on. You could have a straight red, which sees you gone for the game. So I don't know how they're going to police that. And why have 2 different types of red cards? Just come up with another color. I don't know, pink, orange, anything, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, listen, that's what they're going with. So I'm sure we'll see how that progresses as the next few weeks unfold. Okay, article number 3. This comes from the UK Independent as opposed to the Irish Indo, but they just call it the Independent, of course. This is from Duncan Beck. This is a topic that I think it's always interested me because, of course, it affected us here in Ireland as well. What is it, about 14 years ago, when they announced that when Lansdowne Road was knocked down and the Aviva Stadium was built, that it would be called the Aviva Stadium. I always think it's interesting because a lot of friends of mine, I don't want to get into a whole politics discussion, but let's just say that whenever a subject comes up in the news that are to do with protests or even unions or anything like that, that these people would tend to be against those. They'd be like, oh, these guys protest again, by anti kind of protesters. But then all of a sudden, when it comes to this, changing the name of a sports stadium, all of a sudden there's Che Guevara. And it's it's like, I am not going to call it Aviva Stadium. I will not. I'm feel bad that I even said it just now. It'll be Lansdowne Road forever, and that is that. And that's the hill they're going to die on. I always thought that was funny. And some of them even go so far. I've seen people actually go so far as to correct you when you say Aviva Stadium. And it's like, what, why? Why? It's, I mean, my attitude is for one thing, it is just a name. What's in a name? You know what I mean? It's just the name you're calling it. And you actually, believe it or not, you actually have the right to call it whatever you want. Oh, are you going to the match at Lansdowne Road? That's fine. Everyone knows what you're talking about anyway. But it is called the Aviva Stadium. The official name is the Aviva Stadium. The broadcasters, the players, the managers, the organizers, everyone, they're going to call it Aviva Stadium. And the same thing now is happening to Twickenham. Now, Twickenham, if anything, is actually a more iconic kind of name. It's the home of English rugby and all this kind of stuff. And for me, I'm going to find it hard to call it anything else. I'm still going to probably call it Twickenham. And if I'm writing an article for the website or something, or I'm trying to give information as to when and where a game is being played, I'm going to write Twickenham. But on the other hand, if I'm looking for accreditation, if I was regularly going to Twickenham and I was going to them for accreditation, you kind of feel obliged to call the stadium what they're calling it, because it's just a courtesy, that kind of way. And they're accepting money from a sponsor to give it the name. So the whole point of that is the money is to use the name. So it's, you got to respect that. And the quote I've chosen from this article in the English Independent says the decade-long partnership will provide an excess of £10 million a year at a time when the sport is facing significant financial challenges, and that's key. I mean, that's 100. If someone offered you 100 million quid a year to rename your house, which is basically all they're doing, I mean, you take it, wouldn't you? And when I talk about my friends being so self-righteous about not calling it that, I'm kind of half joking, because I have limits myself into what I'd accept, like the South African model of renaming teams, putting the sponsor's name as a part of the official name of the team. I think that's a bit much. I wouldn't like to see Burger King Leinster, or anything like that, or of course, if there was the current model and it was the sponsor's name on the team, they'd all be Bank of Ireland, Leinster, Bank of Ireland Munster. So I don't know. I don't think that would work, but in general, it's just the name. I won't be able to say Allianz Stadium. I won't be able to, but maybe eventually I will. But it's always going to be Twickenham for me. But I'm not going to bang my fist on the table about it. That's my point. But listen, I've gone on way too much about that particular topic. Let's move on. Our fourth article is from Wales Online, and it's Stephen Thomas. And this is basically sort of an update on the ongoing Welsh saga. The clubs there, it's been a total mess over there. There's been scandals. There's been financial scandals. There's been, basically, all kinds of stuff going on at the top level of the WRU, but also you've got a large section of fans that are just not happy with the whole regional setup, the whole being in the URC, all that stuff. They seem to much prefer to go to their local ground and watch two Welsh teams play, which is fine if that's what you want. But when you look at the way the rest of the world is going, you feel they have to be able to compete on that level. So you got competitions like the Champions Cup. It's important for the Welsh to be able to compete in that, at least. And this article is an interview with the CEO of the Ospreys, or those pesky birds, as I call them. And his name is Lance Bradley, and the headline reads: Ospreys chief insists region going nowhere as he reveals new WRU proposal is on the table. Now they're always talking about new proposals, a new dawn, new this, new that, and there's always speculation about how to organize themselves. It's been an ongoing debate for years, and so this is just the latest update on that. But what interests me in this article, and I just looked for it, I looked for any mention of the URC, and I wanted to know, where do you stand on the Welsh regions in the URC? And the quote I've picked out of this is: there isn't a great history of an Anglo-Welsh league, which people think would be the answer to everything. So that's true. I don't think that that's necessarily the be all and end all. I don't think necessarily the Premiership clubs, even with all they're going through now with clubs folding and stuff like that, I'm not even sure they want them in their competition. I do understand how it'd be easier for Welsh fans to travel to watch teams play, team Bristol or Bath and places like that. I do get that. There's a more natural desire to play those teams, but I think the Premiership is a closed shop. I don't think they're going to be opening anytime soon. I think that they have to embrace their existence in the URC. Now, Bradley goes on to say, I know people like to watch, especially the West Country teams, but we are playing in a fabulous league, and some Welsh fans don't agree with that. Well, that's an understatement. The key for me is to try and understand why that is, because if you look at it in terms of any of the playing stats like line breaks and tries scored, the URC is ahead of the top 14 in the Premiership. So coming from the CEO of one of the Welsh regions, it does look like they are committed to the URC plan. And my attitude would be just get behind them. Get behind the team. Just stop whinging. It's the people that literally complain about everything. No league is going to be perfect. And at the end of the day, like I said earlier, the Irish provinces, we have to put up with this, being without less players. But at the end of the day, it's about the test team. And get behind the regions with a view to them supporting the test team, which is what you want. You want the best players going into the test team, and squabbling over whether it's 4 regions or 3 regions or how many clubs there are in the Welsh Premiership and all this kind of stuff. It's just I don't see how it's constructive. That's my thing. Anyway, listen, that's going to be ongoing. There's going to be another story in the next couple of weeks, and we'll be looking at that again. And everything might have changed again. Maybe you'll have another CEO saying we're definitely leaving the URC. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, article number 5. This is the last one, and this is always our clickbait of the week. And I'm going back to my reliable source of clickbait. This is a website called ruck.co.uk. Clickbait, of course, is when a title draws you in to click and kind of gives you a sense of something that's going to be giving you information that it actually isn't. So the headline on this week's clickbait of the week is Billy Vunipola could swap nations to play for hosts of next Rugby World Cup. And that makes you sound like, oh, he's talking about moving. So just to get ahead and before I say anything else, no, he's not. He's not doing it. It's not happening. There's no talk about it happening, I suppose. And like the actual headline says, he could. And the quote I picked is, former England coach Eddie Jones has expressed his desire for England rugby star Billy Vunipola to potentially join the Wallabies in the future. Now, he's not even their coach anymore. Okay, it's Joe Schmidt. But they get you with the headline because they make you think that, oh, maybe he's going to do it. And then you look in the article, and this is something Eddie Jones said ages ago. They've come up with these new laws that say that if you stop playing for one country for 3 years, then you can play for a second country, which, kind of makes sense. It does work for a lot of players. Now, I think he'll be like 34 or 30. He'll be old enough if he waits those 3 years, because he did play at the last World Cup. But my point is, this is a nothing article. Okay, you're scrolling through headlines and you see Billy Vunipola playing for Australia or the Wallabies. Oh my God! But it's not. He's not. So just watch out for these headlines when you're online. So that's our clickbait of the week award. Okay, so that's the front 5. Now the next section of our show is called the Wrap of a Wrap, where every week during the season we record a wrap pods of the latest Leinster and Ireland game. At this part, I basically give you a bit more information about how that wrap went. Try to get, if you haven't listened to it, maybe have a listen. We did a recording there at the end of last week, and it was the season 5 finale. Okay, this is the 5th season of our podcast. I recorded with Kigo, and the idea was that we were supposed to discuss what's gone on in the season as a whole. And it was great. We had a great chat. We talked about Leinster. We talked about Ireland. And I led at the beginning of our chat. I made a point about, now I'm going to do a bit of sort of a clickbait here because I'm not going to tell you what I said, but I made a point which I think was the most important point of the whole season. You'll have to watch the thing. I'm going to go against my own words now, but you have to watch the pod. But I made a point which I think is the most important point of the season just gone, and I made that in the pod. Now I made that point, and we talked about Leinster. And then I got interrupted. It's summertime, the kids are off school. My daughter came in, she had some crisis going on outside, and it was real to her. But we resolved it. So I stopped the recording. She came in, dealt with her. She went out again, and we continued chatting. And I forgot to click record, which is a major error there. So we went on chatting, and then I clicked off the Zoom. We went off and did a few things. When I came back to edit the whole thing, of course, the second half of the pod wasn't there. But still, we did have a really good chat about Leinster's season. And then, of course, I made my point about the whole season. So it's about a 20-minute video. Go to our YouTube channel, or it's also on our podcast feed. Check it out. It's our season 5 finale. So that's that. The next section is called Troll Patrol. Where we pick someone who's contributed or made a contribution to the social media landscape, which is obviously designed to provoke or to be nasty or whatever. And a lot of people say you should ignore it. I think no, you should call them out as a troll. I think you should say that's what you're doing. You're just a troll, and if that's what you want to be, hey, you do you. But I don't think that's a good thing. Now, this week, I don't have a social media post for you simply because for the past week I took the X uh, app off my phone. I just decided this is a little window here. The rugby championship was another week away. The sevens, the Olympics was done. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to just take a little break, social media holiday for a week. And actually, it's been brilliant. Now, that doesn't mean I don't, maybe go on the computer or the laptop and go check the website and check a few tweets here and there now and again. But for the most part, the doom scrolling has been gone for the last week, and I loved it. Now I will go back to it because I'm going to be covering the rugby championship and the women's interpros. We'll just talk about it in a second. But it is good. I suggest it every so often. If you find a window, if you're big into sports or big into following things on X, I think it's important to keep current on information, and you get used to the trolls and you ignore them, or maybe I can talk about them and call them out. But once in a while, just take a break, lose the app altogether, and free your mind from all that kind of stuff. So just that's a little recommendation there. Okay, so now it's time for our competition updates. And this is where we look at all the different competitions that are, we follow Leinster and Ireland men throughout the season. So we're obviously focusing on the URC, the Champions Cup, all those competitions. But this is where we look at all the other big competitions out there. Now, starting this week, we're going to look at the women's interpros. They kick off this weekend. 2 matches on Saturday: Munster v Ulster at 2:30 and Leinster v Connacht at 4:45. They're both live on TG Cahir, so it's great to see them getting the promotion and the coverage. I've said before, it's a shame that the women's interpros in such a small window in the season. I mean, this time last year, the games were played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, and then they're done. And then they've got to wait another year before they come back again. Now, of course, the women's teams are still playing. You've got the Celtic Challenge, you got the WXV, but the provincial brand is very strong in Ireland, and us fans would want to see those teams playing more often throughout the season. So I really firmly believe there is a demand there for more provincial matches. So hopefully they'll find a way to incorporate that into the season somehow. But anyway, listen, Tanya Rosser and Leinster, best of luck to all involved. They're defending their title, and they start this weekend, so we look forward to that. Okay, moving on to the All-Ireland League. Now, that doesn't start until the end of September. We're going to have a quick look at the opening fixtures, which have just come out. The women's AIL starts on September the 28th, and they've a new team in there this season. They've gone with 9 clubs the last couple of seasons in the AIL. There's only 1 division, 9 clubs. Within that division, though, there's kind of another couple of divisions there. There's 4 teams at the top, really: Blackrock, UL Bows, Railway Union, and Old Belvedere. And then the other teams, they don't make up the numbers, but they find it hard to compete with those top teams. And usually you find when a team from those top 4 is playing the others, there's often big score lines. So you could say adding another team to the mix. I think it was Tullow who won the playoff of the provincial champions outside the league, and they got added. So now they have a 10-team league. You could say it's a risk adding another team again, but on the other hand, it could be good to help grow the sport and have more matches for these clubs, throughout the year. So, and I think they've been smart the way they've done the first round of games. As you can see there, you've got those 4 clubs I mentioned. They're playing each other. Blackrock are playing UL Bows, Railway Union, and Old Belvedere. 2 high-profile matches for the first round of the season. And then all the other clubs kind of play each other, so they got a competitive game. So you won't start the whole new campaign, hopefully, with a big blowout wins that you've seen. So I think it's a kind of smart move all around for the women's game. So we'll see we'll see what happens when that kicks off at the end of September. Now, a week before that, the men's AIL kicks off. And as you can see there, there's a lot of big matches, but I think they've gone smart again as well. You won't get more high-profile match in this division than a repeat of last year's final. It was a thriller. Cork Con won by 1 point at the Aviva Stadium, and the 2 teams that played in the final, Terry and Cork Con, going head-to-head again in round 1 at Lakelands. That'll be amazing. And, of course, Mary's, as well, promoted back into the top flight. they're hosting Clontarf, and they're actually the local team to me. So hopefully I'll be able to get down and check that out as well. So it's an exciting new season ahead in the AIL. Wherever you are in the country, if there's a club near you, get down and support them, because it's really important to watch the grassroots level and support it as much as we can. Or if you get involved in volunteering with junior clubs or anything you can do, please do get involved. Okay. So that's the AIL. Now the Rugby Championship is next, and that kicks off this weekend, and two big matches. Well, they're all big matches, I suppose. And they're in the early hours of Saturday morning. Now, you to get up at 5:30 for the first game. Usually the Australia game is later, but they're starting early for this. And they're hosting the Springboks. And then at around 8 o'clock, you've got New Zealand against Argentina. Now, I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again. I think there's a lot of pressure on the Springboks for this Rugby Championship. I think they are in a really strong position to win all 6 matches. And I think they should feel that should be a realistic target for them. I don't know if they'd agree that they have that much pressure on them, but when you look at all the situation, in rugby world at the moment, 2-time World Cup champions, world number 1, they of these 4 teams in the Rugby Championship, all the other 3 teams have new coaches. So they're kind of going through that kind of transition to a new coach. And plus their schedule is kind of favorable. They're away 2 matches to Australia, and they're at home 2 matches to the All Blacks. So they could probably feel that they have a good chance of getting 4 wins from that, and then Argentina at the end. So 6 wins is not out of the question. And I would actually, think that they might be under kind of a bit of a pressure to do that. But anyway, we're recording this. Recording this on Wednesday. And of course, that means South Africa have already named their team for the weekend. And it's an interesting lineup. They've got Sasha Feinberg is their number 10. So it's a brave call. And there's a few choices they got for Elric Lowe as number 8. They have made some changes to the team that played against us. So it's interesting. Quagga Smith has gone to the bench. Andre Pollard is number 23. It's a 5-3 bench. Malcolm Marks, incredible recovery from his injury. I'm delighted after what happened in the test series. I didn't think we'd see him for a while. He's on the bench. And who else? Oh yeah, RG Snyman as well, starting in the second row alongside Eben Etzebeth. So lots of interesting selections there, and that'll be an interesting start to the championship. So we'll be following that as it goes along. Now, also in South Africa, you've got the Currie Cup. We've been covering that in this section here on the 80 Plus column. They've had round 5 at the weekend. I actually finally got to watch a game. Those matches have been on Sky, and I've been meaning to just to have a watch of a game to see. I've seen Currie Cup matches before, but just have a reminder of what the standard is like. And I watched a derby match. It's considered a derby match between the reigning champions, the Cheetahs, and the Bulls. And it was a brilliant game. Maybe not the most defensive-minded kind of game, but when it came to attacking rugby, they were going for chips over the top. There was a lot of offloading. They were trying to score a try on every possession. There was a lot of confidence in it. Now, not everything worked out, but it was a really exciting game from start to finish. The lead changed hands. The Bulls pulled ahead. They built an early lead, but the Cheetahs pegged them back, and then they were ahead themselves. But the Bulls came back. I think the Cheetahs ruled a couple of missed place kicks, but it ended up in a 34-all draw. There's a lot of high-scoring matches in this competition. Elsewhere in round 5, there's another big high-scoring draw, even bigger. The Pumas 44-all against the Sharks, and the Western Province beat the Griffins, and the Lions won away to the Griquas. So basically, the standings at the moment, the top stayed the same with that draw against the Bulls and the Cheetahs. That was first against second. Bulls stay top, 21 points. Cheetahs are 18, and the Lions and Pumas also on 18, with the Stormers or the Western Province behind on 13. And I think coming up in round 6, I think the big game there is Western Province against Cheetah. So I'm going to try to check that out for you. Okay, so that's the Currie Cup. Now, finally, our final competition to look at here is Major League Rugby. They had the championship game at the weekend. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch that live. Watched it back on the highlights. It was an interesting game. It was New England Free Jacks, the reigning champions, against the Seattle Seawolves. I mean, you couldn't get further east versus west if you tried on the mainland USA. And it ended up being a win for New England. They retained their title. Scott Matthew. So they love their sports in New England, and of course they love their Patriots, the New England Patriots. So in a way, you could start to compare Scott Matthew to Bill Belichick, maybe, I don't know, and their out half Jason Potros, maybe Tom Brady, because he was the star player of their game. And there was a brilliant try as well for Leroux Milan. You see him scoring there in the picture I have there on the screen. It was a brilliant first score. It was a very close kind of affair. Seattle did come back a bit, but New England always seemed to have it in the bag. And I suppose crucially as well for the league, the game was played in San Diego, which I don't think is a good idea. A destination final, I don't think really works for the MLR. I think they should really go for home advantage based on results in the regular season, because you probably guarantee a much bigger crowd. It's much more difficult to travel, but this was technically a neutral venue, San Diego, and the crowd actually wasn't too bad. 12,000 isn't bad at all, really. It's in San Diego, where the San Diego Legion play. It's called Snapdragon Stadium. It's a brilliant name, but I still think it's better to have it somewhere where if it's a final and it's a local team, you'll have a big crowd. I think because 12,000 is a lot, but it wasn't full. It's the visual of it, seeing the ground half full. But listen, I think overall net positive. Major League Rugby does seem to be slowly going from strength to strength. After a few teething troubles, some teams had to pull out and stuff. Hopefully it'll go from strength to strength. And we followed the Chicago Hounds throughout the season. They got all the way to the conference final, or the MLR semifinal last week, where they fell to New England. So they did well. Dave Carney, Nick McCarthy, all those players doing well out there. So it was an enjoyable season to follow them, and look forward to next season. Okay. Now, finally, we run a competition on our in our WhatsApp group. Everyone in our WhatsApp group, we have a prediction league throughout the season, Super Brew. Just to say that we've expanded that this year. We've got a couple of new guys. David Cordial, who appeared in a couple of pods during the season, he's joined our WhatsApp group. He's joining our Super Brew. Rich Mifsud, who is a regular contributor, he wasn't in our prediction league last season. He's joined as well. So we've got 10 now. So we update that throughout the season, so predicting all the URC matches week to week, and have a bit of crack as to who's going to win. Christian Ross won the title last season, but more importantly, it was Kigo who finished last, and he has to wear the jersey of shame this season. I've worn it in the past, and there's a picture of it there on the screen. And it's just a bit of fun. We'll be updating that here throughout the season. So that's all I'm going to do about that. Now, one last thing I need to do is get my phone and just double check that there isn't any news. Okay, here's something. See, last season, what happened is, or last week, what happened is I recorded this pod. Everything was great. I stopped it and I looked at it, and then I looked at my phone and I saw that Leinster were going to be playing Munster in Croke Park. So that was news that I could have said, and it would have looked silly if I published the video without that news. So I had to add it back. So I'll have a quick look at my phone, and I see here that the Wallabies Springbok game is a sellout. So if I hadn't checked my phone, I wouldn't have known that. So that's good. That's good to hear. Anything else? I'm going to quickly see if there are any emails. No emails, so nothing else there. Okay, listen, that's it. We're going to leave it there. Normally here I would tell you about the upcoming content when there's a Leinster or Ireland match at the weekend, but for now, these videos are pretty much all we're going to do. So all going well, we'll be back next week with more Front Five articles, and also we'll have the Women's Interpros plus the Rugby Championship to harp on. Anyway, I hope you keep tabs on all our social media feeds, and wherever you are in the world, be sure to enjoy your rugby. Stay safe, everyone. Slán.